Innovation. So we're all here to learn about innovation, discuss innovation, figure out how we can be innovative in a rural place in the middle of nowhere called Wyoming, right? That's why we're all here, to learn about innovation. Unless you're my family, you're just here to watch me. When I started to think about the process of innovation, it was very retrospective. I kind of went through this process and learned for myself what it would take to create an innovative technology. For me, doing this from a place like Wyoming was sort of unheard of. A company like PitchEngine being here in a town or a community of 40,000 people in our county, 500,000 people in our state, if that. We're an anomaly. We're not supposed to be here. So, I started to really look at what it would take, and every time I came to the same conclusion, like many of the speakers did today, that anybody can do this stuff, but you got to have a few characteristics. You got to think of a few things. A lot of technologies that are out there today, a lot of innovations, come about at the convergence of two different things. We're trying to solve problems. When you think about entrepreneurs and you think about innovation, what comes to my mind in the technology space that I sort of live in is that I'm supposed to be a brash, risk-taking entrepreneur, right? I have to have all these sensational characteristics. But as my family and people close to me know, I'm not necessarily a big risk taker. I'm not a bad guy. I didn't break a lot of rules growing up. So why did this work for me? Why was I able to figure out something innovative? And I think there's a lot of things that come into this. For me, I can't stand the process. I can't stand processes, things that we go through in our daily lives that are just processes that we just do, right? I can think of one that really bothers me, which is checking voicemail, right? So most people around me don't leave voicemails because I don't check them very often. I don't like to pick it up, listen to the lady talk, push a couple numbers, listen again, go through the rigmarole, right? It's a process. It's a process that I don't need. It should be way more simple than that, right? So people send us text messages. If there's any youth in your lives, if you've got children or grandchildren, the way to reach them isn't by calling them on the phone, it's by texting them, right? In another language. LOL, OMG, you know what I'm talking about. So when I started thinking about innovations, the thing that came to mind was that there really isn't, I don't believe there's a big, bright idea. I don't believe there's one idea that sparks innovation. I think it transpires over time, and I think innovations, just by its very definition, it needs to impact people. It needs to influence societies or markets or, in my case, industries. Take Square, for example. Jack Dorsey, he actually created Twitter, went off and created this company called Square. And while the invention, the little idea of plugging in a device that can swipe a credit card, while that's pretty cool, that wasn't the whole innovation. What's innovative about Square is that it's changed an industry. It's transforming an industry. In our business, we used to do credit card processing. Well, we still do credit card processing. We used to talk to these bank companies that do the processing, and we'd say, what do you think about Square? What do you think about this technology? Oh, first thing they say, it's not secure, it's not safe, this will never work. 2 months later, they have their own device, it has their own name on it, they have their own Square, right? So it's happening, it's transforming industries, and what's transformative about it is many different things. For one, a device like this and people that use this device, it has a flat credit card fee. Well, in the world of those of you that have any experience with credit card processing, it's a matrix, it's a web of fees and all this stuff that's so complex and hard to understand. They're simplifying a process for it. So when we look at these processes, those are the problems. Those are the things that we need to fix, are these processes. And we all have them in our lives. The problem is, and Max almost, pretty much alluded to this, is that we've got all these circumstances that come into play. And so most people, as Henry Ford puts it, most people try to go around obstacles. We just spend all our day going around these obstacles instead of trying to fix them, right? And we all have them. We're all experts, or we're all passionate about something in here. So in Henry Ford's case in point, he didn't invent the automobile. The automobile was invented 20 years earlier by Carl Benz. But what Henry Ford did was innovate. He created innovation. He created a process for manufacturing it so that the everyman, the multitude, as he called them, of people could have the motor car. And that's what Henry Ford brought to the equation. He made it possible, and he made it innovative, and instead of a handful of people owning automobiles, a whole society could own automobiles. It was transformative, and that's innovation. Andrew Carnegie, same story. He didn't invent steel, although he was a huge business tycoon of his era and, created U.S. Steel. He didn't invent steel, but what he did is he took the technology, the idea of steel, and he was the first person to do large-scale construction and get people to believe that we could use this product in our societies, and it changed the society. So it all comes down to this idea, this concept of an idea. And I just don't think that there's one big idea. And this is a good thing. This is a good thing for you and me, because if we're sitting around waiting for this big idea to happen, you're probably going to sit and wait a long time. The other thing is that I've heard time and time again that I was going to do that, or I had that idea. That's great. Good job. I got great ideas too. Solar toaster, I think that'd be pretty cool. There's a lot of ideas out there. We've all got them, and that's great. But that's one part of a collective innovation that has to happen. So I think they happen over time. I think we have one idea that we think about, and then over time we start to develop these ideas, and that's what creates the innovation. For me, the convergence happened in two different spaces. I was in the marketing space, working at a business in sort of branding and public relations, right? So in public relations, the process was we would create a press release, we would type it up in a Word doc, and we'd print it out. It'd be on a piece of paper. We'd put it in a folder, and then if we had some photos, we'd put those in there. Maybe they were on a CD, because that was modern technology just 5 years ago. And we'd put it in this envelope, and we'd ship it off to journalists, and we'd hope and pray that they would cover our product or our article or our event or whatever we were doing PR about. But I realized that in my personal life, things were much easier. Technologies like MySpace, which was a social network before Facebook, and Facebook, these technologies would allow us to be able to, I could upload 30 photos and send them to my friends like that, which we all take for granted. We can all do today, right? You're taking photos of me, and then you're sending them to your family and your friends, right? So you can do that instantly now. So as a business, we've got the budget. I've got more budget. The business had a bigger budget than I did, of course, but I had better technology. So I wanted to take that technology to my business and solve some problems. So what I did is I started to learn about technology, and that was foreign to me. Technology isn't something especially 5 years ago, I had a huge grasp on. I use technology, but that's very different than trying to create it, right? So I learned and I studied, and I got outside of my comfort zone, which you've heard many times tonight. I got outside of my comfort zone, and I started to learn something foreign to me. And then combining that with what I knew, which was marketing and PR, I was able to create an idea, right? And the idea was to package all that content up in a digital manner, photos and images and text, so that businesses could tell their stories with a link. And they would share this link. They would share it through social networks, which were on the rise. And pretty soon, it caught on. And because I did my homework, because I studied, how does content become viral? Why would someone share this thing? If you remember Hotmail, which was email before Gmail, at the bottom it had this little line, and it said, "Get your own Hotmail account free," right? It's a little thing, seems kind of cheesy, maybe it was marketing, but they call that the viral loop. And I thought, man, if these companies would create their content and start sharing it, then other people are going to share it, and they're going to see it, and they're going to want to build it. So I had that theory, and before we know it, today we have 50,000 brands globally that get on PitchEngine and use it. Big brands like Budweiser and Walmart and Geico, but it's starting to spread. So it's an idea that transformed an industry. So they're changing the way that they do a particular process. And it evolves that industry. We all get better because of it. Other people come up with other technologies, and it sort of grows and it sort of builds on that. It's at this intersection of these two things that is really interesting. My expertise, I guess you could say, is in technology now. But for some people, technology is new. In 2005, a Wyoming investigator named Flint Waters was struggling with his job. His job was to catch child predators. So what he had to do was try to catch these guys and find the victims and have the victims testify, and it was this long process. And it was very difficult because a lot of times the victims wouldn't want to testify, and it was this huge problem. So he devised a way to tackle this. he started looking at internet habits of these people that were committing this crime. And what he noticed is that before they committed the crime, they would go online and they would sort of justify what they're doing, and they would go on these file sharing sites and they would share files. And so, unlike the controversy around NSA today, what he was doing was anytime they would share up these files, he could see it. They were basically little ads, every time a file went out. And so he started studying it, and he followed these patterns, and he was able to identify people that were trafficking this child pornography. What that did was that he could actually catch child predators before they committed a crime. So there was no need for a victim to testify. The trafficking of the material was actually easier to prosecute and would give them a longer term sentence, things like that. He transformed the whole game. He was able to save lives. And I'm talking, this is a hero. This is taking two things, his experience in law enforcement and a passion to help people, and combining that with technology. This is like kicking down the door, saving kids, heroism. That's Flint Waters on Oprah. And you'll be glad to know that he's Wyoming's CIO for the state of Wyoming right now. It's awesome to think about what you can do. This was a cop. This was a guy that knew what he did, and he would go out and try to catch these predators, but he created a technology that spread globally. The FBI uses it. All sorts of municipalities. They identified 600,000 computers in the first year of people trafficking this content. These ideas, if you can find what you're passionate about, that is authentic. If you're truly passionate about it and the authenticity comes through, that's going to impact people. It's going to influence people. And that's what it's going to take to be innovative. Again, you need to be able to transform an industry, a society, change a market. And that's going to require influencing people. A few years after PitchEngine, I live here in this community, and we wanted to find a way to bring our community together. And the way to do that, we decided, was through technology and through content and community. So we gathered news, we gathered photos, we gathered stories, and we would share this content. The result influenced people. What once was two towns that felt like, 300 miles apart instead of 30 miles apart, now were under one same common thing. In fact, they would wear the badge on their car. They would put orange stickers on their car to show that they believed in the same thing. They weren't sharing this because, they like the content necessarily. They were sharing it because they believed in this thing and they identified with it. And so innovation can transform communities. One of my favorite stories of innovation comes from a guy that did it himself. And, I think that's one of the most important takeaways for me over the last, 5 years or so, is that as much support as you have, you're going to get support. Your friends are going to support you, your family, your coworkers, all these people. But to truly find and truly reach that innovation, you're probably the only one that's going to have the vision, right? You're the only one that's going to see that finish line and sort of have that picture for where you want to go. So you spend a lot of time convincing. That's what you're going to do. You're going to spend your time convincing people to believe in what you believe in. Evel Knievel did it all himself. So a young Bobby Knievel in 1960 went out, he booked the venue, rented a venue, he wrote the press releases, he sold the tickets, and he played master of ceremonies, revved up his bike and did a few jumps. And then he decided to woo the crowd with his big plan, which was to jump over a box of rattlesnakes and 2 mountain lions. He made it over the mountain lions and crashed into the rattlesnakes with his back tire. But from going forward, he was known as Evel Knievel. And 7 years later, he convinced ABC's Wild World of Sports, and he convinced Caesar's Palace to let him do an event, all on his own. He had his own people call and pretend they were lawyers. Call up Caesar's Palace and tell them that I had ABC Wild World of Sports. Call up ABC and say, I got Caesar's Palace. And the rest is history. In 1967, he jumped the fountains at Caesar's Palace. I think he crashed again. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. He created this himself. And so he was passionate about it. He understood it. He knew what the vision was, and he influenced people. People in that generation, he was the hero of that generation. I think now we see the result of that in things like the X Games and things like that. So the thing to remember is that going into this, look at the processes that you have in your life. Look at the ways that you can impact those. And then make sure it's something you're passionate about and something that you can tackle. Ideas are powerful things, but innovation can change lives. It can put bad guys in jail. It can make people wear your icon on their shirt, put the badge on their car. It can change lives. It's a powerful thing. You can change lives, even if it's in your little industry, even if it's 5 people that you're impacting. That's a huge deal. Those are 5 people that believe in what you do, and those are 5 people that will support you to the end. So to be innovative, though, it's going to require work. And I think the only shortage of anything we have today is time, right? So as you're all sitting here and learning and thinking about how can I be innovative and how can I be inspired to go do something different, the only thing that you're short on is time. So I suggest you guys get to work. Thank you.